Welcome, welcome to She's All Over the Place. So happy to have you here. I am here to inspire you, to make you move and groove and take actionable steps to live your best authentic life. Okay? We have a beautiful guest today. Her name is Kate Erickson, and Kate is the engine at Entrepreneurs on Fire, an award winning podcast where John Lee Dumas interviews inspiring entrepreneurs who are truly on fire. Whoa, that's so cool. And Kate is also the co author of the podcast journal. Oh my gosh, ideas to launch in 50 days. Neat. Her goal to help entrepreneurs achieve financial and lifestyle freedom. Oh my gosh, I totally need that. This is awesome. This is so exciting, and I'm sure you're excited right there in your seats as well. Okay. So, Kate, thank you so much for being with me on She's All Over the Place. How are you?
I'm so good, Katie. Thanks for inviting me. Super happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, my pleasure. So, so the podcast journal, ideas to launch in 50 days. What is that and where can we get it?
Awesome. Thank you for asking. So, we launched the podcast journal in 2018, and it came out of this recurring question and struggle that we heard so many people talk about is like, I want to start a podcast. What do I do now? And we kept finding that like we could provide all these resources, but that doesn't change the overwhelm and the different steps and the moving pieces and what equipment do I get? What software do I use? How do I figure out what I want to podcast about, the format, the frequency? How do I launch it? Where do I launch it? Like, you know this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. So we thought, why not put it into a journal where every day for 50 days, you just have one action item. We tell you exactly what the action item is. We give you an exercise to work through that action item. Then by the end of the day, you've checked that one thing off your list. You're one day closer to the launch of your podcast. And it's available at thepodcastjournal.com. It's available on Amazon. We have digital packs if you just want to fill out the PDF version of it, or we have a physical copy too.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds amazing. So this is just the basic 101 backbone for starting and aspiring to have a successful podcast. That's such a and it's a gift you give to people or
It's $49 for the
Mhm.
hardcover version of it. And then the PDF version is $39.
Oh, great, great. That's awesome. That's a lot of value and insight and totally worth it. So you're on the right train tracks getting going. That's
Yes.
so cool. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing and letting us know about that. The other thing is it says here um, you help entrepreneurs achieve financial and lifestyle freedom. I mean, this is huge. This is so major. Like, financial freedom. I mean, it entraps so many of us, and we're so limited by our psychological circumstances and sometimes our physical day-to-day circumstances, and then lifestyle. Choosing happiness and choosing circumstances and choosing patterns and behaviors for our everyday routine for our lifestyles that feeds us, because so many times we're people pleasing other people and we're not living with our authentic truth self of who we are. So let's just break it down. I don't know if you want to start with financial or lifestyle freedom, but I mean we could just dive in those areas. That'd be
Yeah, for
awesome.
sure. I mean, for me, like both of them are kind of intertwined in a lot of ways, right? Um, because whatever your definition of freedom is, whatever success looks like to financial freedom, that's going to be different for everyone based on the lifestyle that you want to live. So if you want to hang out in a shack on the beach for, that's a very different definition of financial freedom and lifestyle than somebody who wants to be like living large in New York City in like a penthouse apartment, right? So
Stuck inside right now. Yeah.
yes. But I mean, the thing about that though is that we can't get there until we understand what our definition is, what it is that financial freedom means to us. What does lifestyle freedom mean to us? And I think so many people get caught up in those traps of like, you kind of alluded to it when you were mentioning and like kind of introducing this topic, is that So many of us are, conditioned to think of financial freedom or success as more money, better job title, more accolades, more recognition. But really, all of that is what you make it. So until you understand what's most important to you, how you want to be living your life every day, what financial freedom looks like, what lifestyle freedom looks like, then you can't start taking the actions to help yourself get there. And I know that you're big on this too. Like you have to be authentic and be taking actions in alignment with what you want to see in your future. Otherwise, like, okay, you say you want this thing, but if you're doing this every day, that's not in alignment. So, like, no matter how badly you want this thing, the fact that you're doing these things, it's just never going to get you there. So, having like that clear picture in your mind is the first step.
Okay, so and thank you. And so a couple of things I'm putting together while I'm listening to you is one, the first step is maybe writing down a list, having a list of the what's, right? What you were saying, what a lot. So what does this look like for me? What is success for me? Not what I success. What is what? And then another question is like, what is success for my ego, right? What is success
Yeah.
for the ideal version of what I was taught through programming of television, through generation of family? Like, what is success for them? The expectations of, oh, become a doctor, become a lawyer, like do this, and the acclimate, or go to and get a degree and all of that stuff. So break down the list of the why and the what of what lifestyle success, financial freedom means to us. So, a little short story about my personal background. When I was a kid, see, my dad ran cross country and he turned me on to cross country running. So, I learned about short term, medium term, and long term goals. And so, so strategy, right? And then I applied it to the principles of my life and seeing the bigger picture of the goals, but then understanding the micro and to kind of pat myself on the back and acknowledge my daily goals and my weekly goals, and to build up my my self-esteem and my self-worth, to praise myself. Because what you were saying is, when we're out of balance and out of line, is like you're saying one thing. So energetically, this is a lot of energy spitting out. We're like energetically going here. So we're saying one thing, but then the actions show another. So, like, write down what we say, maybe record it. If people don't want to write it down, record what we actually say to people all the time, because we become so foggy and blindsided with our own limiting beliefs. We believe our own crap, or like our own bull, like this energetic stuff. We're saying one thing and we mean another. So to get them in line, maybe record, write those things down. um so what I did as a youngster, when I was a kid, what you were saying earlier about these things, I did. Grant Cardone did this 10x method, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I created this 11x method, because when I was a kid, what I would do is I would do 11 things for my career, and I would do 11 things for my personal, and I would fulfill those things. And on harder days, it could, and I tell, my clients, and I tell people, if it's 11, the 11x method, if it's 11 things, you know, for your professional, if it's 11 emails because you're having a whatever day, that's 11 emails. It's an actionable step, like you said. However, if you're on the go, like kind of I am right now, then you can say, oh, the one thing, I sent 11 emails. The second thing is boom. And it can be whatever you consider for your person, or for your personal and for your professional, but taking those actionable steps to creating the lifetime goal, and being okay with those goals pivoting and shifting, because such is life. We pivot and we shift, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, flexibility is so key in all of this. I feel like in life in general, and absolutely as an entrepreneur, business owner, somebody looking to create big dreams, sometimes those dreams shift and they change, and like the path to get there looks different for everyone. And we all have different obstacles and roadblocks that we have to overcome. So, yeah, absolutely. Being flexible, being willing to pivot, being willing to take a step back and give yourself space to like check in with yourself. Is this still what I want? What I wanted 10 years ago, that's not the exact same thing that I'm going to write down today, because I've achieved a lot of stuff. Like, as you said, pat yourself on the back, congratulate yourself for the achievements that you've made. I've made a ton of mistakes too. And I've learned so many lessons from those things, which are always informing, what I'm doing in my present is creating my future. And so to be able to check in with yourself on a regular basis too, to kind of reevaluate, like, am I still on the path I want to be on? Am I still building the business that I want? Like based on everything I've learned, achieved, failed at, etc.
And then based on like what happened with the world pandemic, I think it gave us a lot more space of knowing what you're saying, but to actually we were kind of forced to take those steps as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So actually, I just want to circle around here because when we talk about your actual profession, you are the behind the scenes for a multi-million dollar podcasting business. I mean, wow. I feel so lucky to have you on my podcast. This is so cool. I'm like totally geeking out over here. Like you are a boss lady, like making it happen and like let's talk about being behind the scenes for a multi-million dollar podcasting business. I don't want to assume. I think I already know, but let's hear it from you. Which podcast is this?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. That's super sweet. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me again. So the podcast is Entrepreneurs on Fire. John Lee Dumas been hosting this podcast since 2012. So we've been doing this for quite a while now. I joined the team in 2013, about 6 months after he launched. He started gaining momentum and the audience started growing and he started getting requests and feedback from his audience about more things that could help them beyond just the podcast. And so we started growing a team and started creating products and services and masterminds and events. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. And then I heard when I was at Podcast Movement last October, where we met and I was hearing his name in the chat rooms flying by all over the place. And so he from what I gathered, he made a commitment to do a one podcast a day for 365 days, kind of like Gary Vee style, just like consistency, how much can you put out? And so did he schedule like sometimes 6 podcasts in a day and then he would just have it was a podcast and then it was since it was so consistent it was able to be like on fire, like literally boom, just like go through the maps of the algorithm and the sharing and the mass expansion. So I think that's a really brilliant idea to mastermind and to do something so vivacious as that. But yeah, so am I on key here with the birds and the gossip floating around in the community? Is that what he did and how it started?
Yep. 365 days a year. He's published over 3,000 episodes to date. So he did daily up until 2,000 episodes and then switched to like a 3, 4, 5 days per week. It just depends on our volume of guests and whether or not we have awesome content to put out, which lately we've had so many requests for people to be on the show and so much awesome content and people's stories to share that we pretty much publish on the schedule that we can. Um, and yes, he batches his interviews. So he'll do sometimes 7 interviews in a single day. And so we're always 30 days ahead, which if we want to touch back on the lifestyle freedom that we mentioned earlier, that really gives us full flexibility. We can pretty much batch anything in our business so that if we want to go away for the weekend, if we want to kind of unplug for a week, if we want to travel, we're able to do that by batching our content. Our business will still run even if we're not there.
Great. And I want to pivot to time management and productivity and stuff. But before I do that, I got an email from him like a few weeks ago about his new book. So do you want to like share with the audience his new book? And is it available on audio if people are more audio people?
Yes, absolutely. So very exciting. The book is called The Common Path to Uncommon Success. It's a 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. Again, right on par with everything we're talking about. This book is 273 pages. It is a fantastic write-up, not just of these 17 steps and what each of those steps are. John also gives an example of that step on his journey. And then we also have 17 contributors. So we reached out to 17 incredible entrepreneurs and they each give their experience with one of the steps on their journey. So
Wow.
it's a really like cool 365-degree view of like, here's the step, Here's how I leverage it on my journey. Here's how another awesome entrepreneur leverage it on their journey, because, everyone's journey is different. Things are going to look different. Steps look different.
Different
And
interests, different
yeah,
principles
exactly.
of the fields that we're all in as an entrepreneur.
Exactly. Yeah. Different ideas, different structures.
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm so proud of John. It's an incredible book. We signed with HarperCollins, so it's in partnership with HarperCollins Leadership. So it's first traditionally published book route that we're going. Launches March 23rd. So by the time this is out, the book will be out. And it's available on Amazon. It's on Audible. There is an audio version. There's an ebook version, hardcover version, like all the versions.
So since it's an interactive piece when you're reading it, who is doing the audio?
John does the audio as well.
So does he just for fun, does he like play characters for the people, or he reads it straight?
He reads it pretty straight up. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, and then so you are a power couple, and y'all have been together for 10 years,
Almost 10 years. Yeah.
and you guys are like bossing in the space. That's so cool, and it's awesome for like females and males and partners out there to see and watch the steps, so that you don't have to do everything alone, like, and you might, while you're doing and you're on purpose and with the intention of your life and what excites you and what you're doing along your path, you can meet your partner and you can build an empire, whatever that empire is, a little mountain, a big mountain. I mean, the sky's the limit, they say, right? So with this being said, this is going to take me to, which is how I met you, as being a podcast host of your own podcast called Ditch Busy. So you have Ditch Busy, and I was like, Ditch Busy, I'm like, oh my god, I need her in my life so much. So um Tom Bailu and Luke Story, I was watching a podcast they did together, and like one of them was like the protege, like the muse, like, okay, and it was like about a relationship thing, because was like in dysfunctional relationships and like couldn't find the one. So I kind of want to put the needle to me, and I'll be the guinea pig here, and I want to give the viewers some insight, and my heart and soul some insight, tips you can share with us. For example, like Ditch Busy, it's all about ditching busy. So time management, productivity. So like maybe we can pivot into those kind of areas about actionable steps. And then obviously everyone needs to go to Ditch Busy and binge it, marathon it, like ASAP, because it's streaming obviously all over the place. So yeah, congratulations on having your own podcast. How's that going, and when did that start? Recently.
Thank you. Yeah. So Ditch Busy is more recent, launched January 2020. But before that, I actually had another podcast called Kate's Take, where I would give a behind the scenes of how we run our business, because that's what I do in our business. So I'm like, why not talk about this and share it with people? Because that's how we roll. And that was awesome. I love the podcast so much. I kind of got to a point where when I decided to transition from Kate's Take to Ditch Busy, I wanted to just kind of niche a little bit more and really dive into something that was top of mind for me, that I know people struggle with. Like literally I don't know anyone who doesn't struggle with time management on some level, myself included. It was really a great exercise in allowing me to call myself out on stuff and then record episodes about it to share with people. I mean, one of the biggest issues that not issues but struggles, I guess you could say, that I come up against is I tend to say yes to too many things. And in the moment, I want to help, I want to give, I want to like be everywhere, and that's just not cool for our sanity or for our goals or for the life that we say we want to live. And so it was really empowering to call myself out, to share that with my listeners, and to let people know that they're not alone in, having these kinds of daily like scheduling snafus where all of a sudden, like, you would love to have an open day so that you can do yoga and meditate and hang out with your friends and, X, Y, and Z, whatever you want to do in your day. But you look at your schedule and you've got all this other stuff that like doesn't really sound like that much fun. So
So like quote unquote, I call it a K day, and since your name's Kate, you may call it a K day too, but it's like a spa day, K day. So like
Yay.
you have to schedule like 4 hours or like 24 hours or 72 hours. Like this is a K day or a Kate day. Like, and you have to schedule that because of sometimes of how we work with patterns and organization. Some people just need to schedule that and like put ourselves first. And I really loved what you said about the resistance and the struggle that you have and how you made you transmuted that resistance and struggle, and you called yourself out on it, and then you transmuted it by empowering yourself to apply an actual podcast. So when you're just talking as the teacher, as helping people, as the giver, as the teacher, then you can actually be the student and apply what you're actually telling people to be in alignment of what you were saying. And then you're checking yourself, and you're checking in with yourself, 'cause it's like, I'm sharing all this stuff with people, like I need to apply this to myself. I totally get that. I have a short story I would like to say. So at the beginning of in last November, it was my birthday, 11/11, and I made a commitment to myself for my birthday. I said I am by March 21st, World Poetry Day. I have wanted to be a published poet since I was 12. I wrote my first piece called The Oddball, and I wanted to be a published poet. And I'm like, for my birthday, my gift to myself is by World Poetry Day. By the spring, I'm going to release my book. And it happened, I looked it up, and it happened to be World Poetry Day, March 21st. So I'm like, I'm going to release my first book. So then in January, so in December, I'm doing all the research. In January, I'm talking to this guy who's published two books. One with a book publisher, he said he got pennies, like not a lot of money. And then the second one, no worries on you though, with your deal, just completely different. But then he did another book where he self-published through Amazon, and he made like so much more money than he did from the book deal. So like my friend, she's did 6 books, and I had a podcast with her and about like how do about writing books and stuff. Obviously, it's a big topic on the podcast as an entrepreneur, what I'm into, like podcasting and publishing books and honoring each other's journeys. Well, long story short, this man, because he's done it before and he's great, I'm like, I need you to hold my hand and walk me through the steps of the productivity of the steps of getting it done, because I had a lot of anxiety and imposter syndrome and the resistance of doing it. So if someone could just befriend me and walk me along the steps on the Zoom interactive. So he walked me along the steps, and while he's doing that, I'm wanting to like pay homage to him and give value and insight to him, because he's as an exchange of energy. Like he's a man, he's married, he has 2 kids, like he's like helping me out. So I'm like, thank you. And I know some things about like um hashtag hacks for Instagram, and how one is how to bust through the algorithm. And the number one way to bust through the algorithm is when you go live. When you go live, you pass the AI, the algorithm, and you're live, and it tells all the people following you who are online that you're live, and you pop up first. So I tell so many people this. So we were on the Zoom, and we were about to like start the adventure, and I did, and I'm like, you know what? I'm telling you this. I'm like, what you said, like Kate's take, how you did the behind the scenes of what we're doing. I was so scared, and I was so vulnerable of being seen, of being heard. And I've been like hiding and hiding. And I'm like, I need to call myself out. So I called myself out, and I did that. I applied it, and I called myself out like you called yourself out. And I applied what I was telling someone else, teaching other people. And I did it, and I went live, and it was like really fun. And then on Instagram, you can only do 15 minutes. So I post 15 minutes of it, and then more people saw it. But I was really proud of myself because I took action and applied those things that were holding me back. And we can do that for a day or a week or 3 weeks, or you wake up 3 years later, or some people 3 decades later, and you're like, oh my God, how long was I under that rock? I didn't even realize. So to like cut the corners, and like you said, actionable steps, one step at a time, take those actionable steps, like in the book, the podcast journal, one step at a time, take that one step. And when you take that one step, we're unfiring and we're unwiring the resistance and the things that aren't holding us back, but we're taking that one step. So then we're like, roar, on fire, like entrepreneurs on fire, roar, like being really empowered. And then we're taking massive steps. So thank you for sharing that with us. That's really, really awesome. Let's dive deep more into the podcast, please.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much unpacking to do in everything you just said. I mean, first off, kudos on you. Good for you for doing that. Something that scared you, that you got out of your comfort zone, that you had anxiety around. I mean, that's talk about confidence booster. When you do it, you're like, oh my gosh, that was actually really fun. And look
Yeah.
at all the benefits from it. And look at the people I was able to reach and look at the impact I was able to give. Like, I mean, that's something that we need to do more is if something creates like a little bit of fear, then that should be your permission to do it. Because if it's just easy and comfy and cozy, that doesn't get you to where you want to go. What you do right now, if you want to, what got you here doesn't get you there. Like you need to start doing something different, right? So that's awesome. I love that. And then, I mean, you talked about it a ton. Like, really, what I like to focus on in the podcast is like, look, this isn't rocket science. If you want to reach a goal, you have to break it down into micro goals. You have to take one step every single day towards that micro goal. And that creates momentum and a snowball effect so that if you continue taking action every day, you will get to your goal by virtue of holding yourself accountable and taking action. You're going to have questions. You're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to come up against really frustrating days where things did not go the way that you wanted them to. And you're going to have days where you feel amazing and like you've made a ton of progress. Every single day just has to be one step forward.
Yeah.
And when you start building that momentum and you start congratulating yourself for taking action and you hold yourself accountable to showing up every day, you reach your goals. Like that's really all there is to it.
And not judging ourselves along the way of how much we did that day.
Right.
There's this book by Miguel, love him, The Four Agreements, and it's like, one of the things, it's like, be impeccable with your word is number one, but the fourth one is do your best. And maybe today this was
Mhm.
my best. I've had days where it's like this is just my best. And and we have to be okay and just give ourselves that permission. Yeah. So thank you for that. And I know you mentioned in the podcast journal for podcasters, there's tools and softwares and things, but for someone who's not a podcaster, are there online platforms, Mailchimp? I know the Later app, the desktop version. There's a free version, so you can schedule your social media posts, to batch things. Are there and I know Asana has a free version for organizing tasks for entrepreneurs, for people like who are just small time in not small time, but maybe it's just them, or they have one or two people on their team, 10 or less, maybe just even just an artist. I have so many artists on this podcast, so maybe they don't have even a VA, a virtual assistant, any suggestions of programs for people who are getting started? Any suggestions for programs?
Yes. One, any calendar. And Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, iCalendar, whatever they call it, don't care what type of calendar it is. If you are having issues with time management, it's because you're not putting things in your schedule and you're being totally unrealistic with what you are able to accomplish. That creates the overwhelm, the frustration, the disappointment because we tell ourselves, I'm going to do 100 things today, but like nobody can do 100 things. Like you said before, how about you do one thing today?
Yeah.
How about you do 3 things today? So get a calendar. I don't care what kind of calendar it is, a notebook, a paper calendar, an online calendar. That tool will change everything if you use it appropriately and actually start scheduling in what you've committed to, what you want to accomplish that day. Like actually write it down so you can hold yourself accountable to that and so that you're not overbooking yourself.
Yeah.
Um, One program that actually, there's a lot of programs that I couldn't live without. You already mentioned Asana. This is a
Yeah.
beautiful task management and project management software. Like you said, there's a free version. I literally create tasks for myself. I don't even have to, I do use it with my team members, but if you don't have any team members, use it just with yourself. Just schedule tasks, put a due date on it, leave comments, leave links that will be helpful for you when you revisit it a week from now, 2 weeks from now. It's
And
such a great task management tool.
yeah, it's super cool for all the new Asana users or new to be users. It sends you an email, a reminder of the list that you made, and then you can do daily, weekly, monthly goals, things like that.
Yeah, awesome.
Very
Um,
cool, very cool.
2 other tools that I love that I'll spit off real quick. Boomerang for Gmail. It's a great email task management tool. helps you create reminders, send follow-ups, have emails come back to you if you need to follow up with someone. I do a ton of follow-up work just by nature of what I handle in our business. That tool saves my life.
And where do you
And
find
text,
that? In the
uh,
Gmail.
boom,
How do you find the Boomerang?
it's actually an add-on. So if you just Google Boomerang for Gmail, or if you use Outlook, like just Google Boomerang for Outlook. It's not called Boomerang; they call it something different. But almost every email program has a tool like this. Incredibly helpful. And the last one I'll mention is Text Expander. I just got my monthly Text Expander report. I saved 1 hour and 42 minutes last month just type like I would have spent 1 hour and 42 minutes more typing if I didn't use Text Expander. I expanded something like 900 snippets or something ridiculous.
What does that
Text
mean?
Expander. So you can create basically short keys for your email address, for your physical address, your phone number, websites. I mean, you can literally create shortcuts for anything. My bio. So when someone asks me for my bio, you saw my bio. It's like 3, 4 sentences. I type 3 keys and it expands into my bio. So anything that you type over and over again, email replies, email signatures, your bio, short paragraphs, instructions, again, your email address, your website, all these things can be created into short snippets with Text Expander.
Well, I'm just telling you right now, I really got a lot of value off the last two. I had no idea about that, and I'm gonna have
Yes,
my virtual assistant hook that up right away. That text expander.
they're
That
so
sounds
good.
amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I want to honor you and your time, but you are a boss lady, and I am so happy and lucky to be connected with you, Kate. Seriously, thank you so much for being here. So since yeah, you were mentioning one of your favorite people and women out there who you get inspiration from is Marianne Williamson, and you have
Mm.
like a quote you want to read from her for
Yeah. Let me pull it
for the
up because I do
listeners.
have to read it. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
One of the my favorite things that she says is her quote about our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And I just resonate with that so much. I mean, I remember growing up, like I was usually the one at the back of the classroom, like I could raise my hand, but I don't want to say the wrong thing, or like, shyness and all this like playing small and backing down. And like, it wasn't until way later in life how I realized like how much that was not serving me and not serving anyone else around me. And I just think it's so important to like step up to our calling, to step up to what we're here for, what we were brought to this earth for, to impact others, to share love with others, to encourage others, to support others. And yeah, I wish I would have learned that earlier, but I feel very blessed to have learned it when I did.
Yeah, totally. And stuff we were talking about during our beautiful conversation about the resistance and the fear and the actionable steps are all intertwined with that very quote, you know, about
Mm,
showing up for yourself because we're powerful, and that's the fear. That's so beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that. I love that quote. I love her book called A Return to Love, and anyone can listen to it on YouTube. It's actually her voice. She sounds so angelic. She reads the audiobook version on YouTube of her voice. Also, I the Overdrive app, you can download up to 30 audiobooks per month for free, ebook to read it or audiobook on Overdrive. There's going to be show notes below of John's new book. Also, a link to Kate's podcast, Ditch Busy, and then also a link to the podcast journal. So check out those links and find Kate on social media. All her social media handles will be in the show notes as well. And definitely get my new book, A Lover's Fairy Tale, 11 pieces of poetry that I wrote all about love. During my travels from 2004 to 2012, international experiences of traveling the world, being at one with God and the universe, and not love in a partnership in that kind of, but the aesthetic and the meaning of love and nature, of animals and life and culture and food and people. So it's the overall love of being in the world, and now more than ever, we just need to really, we know, lead by love. So it's an honor to be able to finally take that stuff within, and hopefully you listening going. Take those things that are within and share your gifts with the world. It's so important. And I'm so happy you shared moments with us. Bottom base, before you go, your roots, where are you from? And, and like where are you from, first of all, and then something that was like the turnkey, I don't know if it was a book or an experience or a movie or something that like was like, oh, I want to be like her, or I want to be like that, or this is what I want in my life.
Awesome. All right. Well, I grew up in San Diego, California. So I'm a beach girl. Love it out there. I miss it very much, even though Puerto Rico is beautiful as well. Love being here. And a turning point for me, gosh, I've had so many. A book that I really love, and that anybody who's interested in time management and taking more control of their time, Essentialism by Greg McKeown, is a really incredible read. I mean, it just like exponentially charged my love for time management. So it's a really awesome read.
Great. Kate bringing the value and the insight. Boss lady, congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for having me. It was great chatting.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.